Yo, yo, Tony D. Been slumming in the back bins again. Doug Moench and Kelley Jones. I was really intrigued by this 523 cover with the red, the green, the hints of yellow. Really stood out to me. I went ahead and took a chance, bought it, and it's a really great story. And there's a lot about Kelley Jones with his artwork and his portrayal of Batman that really stands out, and I think I should share it. This Doug Moench, he's a really underrated Batman writer, and his writing is on point in these two issues. And we're dealing with a psychological showdown between Batman and probably one of his most cerebral foes, the Scarecrow. Both of these are anchored in fear, and we'll see that as we flip through here. Scarecrow has escaped. And one thing I want to mention is Kelley Jones, his strengths always lie when he's drawing Batman. It's almost like when Bruce Wayne suits up as Batman, there's an illustrative change, and we'll see that as we go. But Scarecrow is targeting people. He even mentions that the only thing that scares him is Batman, and he has to deal with that. Right now, he is targeting people that have bullied him in college. And he does a lot of that talking of where he's just tired of being stopped by Batman. And he's mentioning the cyclical pattern of escape, getting beat by Batman, going back to, and he's tired of it. Moench is creating this atmosphere of he's willing to do anything at this point to conquer his fear, which is the Batman. So here's what I'm talking about. When Jones draws Batman, I was reading an article and he said that he wanted to draw Batman the way that criminals would picture him in their mind, the fear aspect. And it really brings a strong sense of Batman capturing his fear back, because this is right after the breaking of the Bat with Bane, and he's still healing. And he even mentions that he's trying to find the edge without going over it. And he mentions it's a fine line to seek the deepest, darkest darkness without getting lost in obsession. And Moench leans into obsession quite a bit in his stories. I'll give you an example. The Love Killer, that's one that's leans heavily into obsession. Batman's having his own internal conflict with trying to find his fear, because these guys don't really fear him, and he knows that. He's trying to find that and get it back. Is that Kelley Jones just leaning into what a villain would actually see in the Batman. And it's almost a monstrous rendering. We'll get to that. But that's why I say that's his strength, because to me, this is uneventful to me, like everyday regular people. And maybe that's just the way it is when he's not drawing the impactful Batman scenes. Maybe there is an intentional play down. I don't think so, but Scarecrow's at work. He's delivering the fear gas and scares them to death is what he's literally doing. And he lets them know who he is before they go. Love this shot of where he's lifting up his cape and showing you the manner. The Scarecrow's vendetta it's deep. This is all political talking head stuff. Really didn't get into that, but when I would get to this, oh yeah, it's on. Well, he knows Scarecrow's out. He gets wind in this party of there's been a death, and he knows Scarecrow's escaped. And he's leaning into Harvey Bullock. There's more of that going on. So he goes to the morgue, and they're getting more of a sense of what's going on. Really, they're just verifying the Scarecrow did this. And look at that character. See, that's a notch up from his regular character. His interpretations of Bruce Wayne, it seems really flat but this is more dramatic. Kelley Jones, when he leans into that monstrous evilness, he's really good. And this is just what I'm talking about. Very poetic in his rendering of the Dark Knight. You just can't take your eyes off of it. And this is where he has that monstrous type exaggeration. When he's in the bat in his uniform, his costume, everything is exaggerated to an extreme. He really was ahead of his time, I believe. Another victim, and the Batman is watching this. He needs to save this guy. Love the color. He's telling that guy to jump out the window, but Batman comes in the window. Totally love that setup. You even get into a thing here where the Scarecrow is actually a good fighter, and Batman mentions it because he's so erratic and unpredictable. He has a deceptive grace to him. I love that setup. Not everyone has to be a ninja. This guy, he's ready to go out the window, and we're setting up for the next issue at this carnival funhouse thing, haunted house, which is fantastic. And that is bam right there. See what I mean by the monstrous? Kelley Jones just can't miss when you get into the costumes and the portrayal of fear. And you get a lot of that here. Batman dives after our guy. He saves a guy. Scarecrow gets away, of course. And then Batman actually chases after the Scarecrow. And you're getting to a point like that. That's that's good use of color there. But it's not consistent, but we'll let it go. Batman, it's just very interesting how the rendering changes on each. It's different from each page. It's really cinematic. This series of 2 comics had a very cinematic flair to it. The Scarecrow is luring our hero into this trap. Surely he's gonna gas our guy. And he has his 3rd victim already wrapped up as the bait. This is very signature Gothic exaggeration of this nightmare scape that we're getting into. Love the psychological warfare where there's both themes of fear with our hero and our villain. The Batman, he's onto this. He knows that he's not going to fall for the gas. He's fought him too many times. This really illustrates the twisted psyche of Jonathan Crane, Scarecrow. And his methods are way more theatrical, and way more personal. And that was set up in the previous issue where he's sick of the cycle. And the philosophical dread really makes this more than just a typical villain of the week type book. And here it is. That is just awesome work. And it's very symbolic where he can't go in through the front because of the fear gas, but he's going right through the demon skull. He's crawling into the head of the Scarecrow. Totally love that. And the artwork it's almost like the cape is alive when Kelley Jones renders that. So the psychological dread just drips on these pages. It's there. And Batman is recapturing his swag. He's not falling for anything. He knows these were set up for someone that has inhaled the gas, but it's still showing you how twisted and how far the Scarecrow is willing to go. And I love this color. Like the green and red are always a compliment color scheme, but I do love the impact of it. It's great stuff. And I do love how they use different colors when they switch from one scene to another. See, I'm calling it a scene. It's very cinematic where Batman is in the cool colors and the real danger is red. Colors mean a lot. Everything is on purpose. There's no accidents with art and writing. So he's running into more of these gimmick traps, but the farther we go, the more ghastly Batman starts to become. His appearance, the cape, just layers of the cape. And notice how down there's like a spine. He's a monster, which Goes with the Kelley Jones wanting to render the hero as what a villain would perceive him as, a monstrous bat. Here we are, he's getting ready to guillotine this guy here. The tension ratchets up here. And I found myself really, in my mind, sometimes when I'm reading action sequences, you really think, is he going to make it? Like, you usually, a lot of things that you read or you're watching a movie, you just know. But Moench really sets things up where it's possible. He's a great writer. And this is where Batman has just morphed into this creature. He has a monstrous spine. The cape just almost alive itself. And look, and his hand gestures change to a very, I don't know, creepy, like Nosferatu type rendering. He even mentions here to this guy that bullied him, is, hey man, you taunted somebody sick and now you've been haunted by what you did. Not everyone's innocent, that's a victim. But Batman has a code, nobody dies. He sends old boy off, and here you go with the cape and the darkness, the facial. He takes it head on. He even mentions that it's just, you're getting into his head, that type of thing, because that's what Batman has done in the past. He's gotten inside the Scarecrow's head. More symbolism there. That's great. That's great writing. The Scarecrow tries to trick him with the head inside the head. Batman, he has the nose filters in, and the Scarecrow gets a whiff of it. Batman makes sure he gets it. So this is Batman recapturing his fear-inducing methods and his brutality without crossing the edge and being obsessed. He's starting to recapture that, and he captures it very well here, where he gets him and he lets him have the fear gas, and he is not sorry about it. And this is what I'm talking about. This thing is coming at him. Batman purposely screws with his head, where he just pops out of that train. And look how he has his cape. That is an awesome shot. I like to have the original artwork for that. He gives it to him. But the Scarecrow, he's still fighting. That's incredible. The fear wasn't enough. And fear is never enough for a false Scarecrow. And he even starts begging. The Scarecrow really is at his wit's end in this book. He goes for it again. And Batman, look at that. He's been captured by a ghoul. I can't not think about Nosferatu. In this shadow here, he's delivering him into the darkness. And Crane mentions it scares him. Batman's recapturing what he needs to capture in this part of his career. After the Bane incident, I never really got into that. Don't know why. That was the point where I was out of comics for a little bit. I was in the military, and the whole Superman, all that stuff was starting to go down, and I just didn't get into it. But I do love the rebuilding coming out of it. I think it says a lot about our guy. And Doug Moench, superly underrated as a writer. And the more of his stories I read, the better they are. When I was young, I would steer away if there wasn't major. Now, when I was young, I would get that just because of the haunting, eerie type cover sale. And if you're into that, outro, get that.